This clip is from a recent episode Ken and I just did. You can find the full episode right here. And if you'd like to download the study guides and the notes to follow along, I made them into downloadable PDFs and they're in the description box below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Let us know what you think. Enjoy.
Here's what happens if you only go to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You end up lost. Because some of the things Jesus preached back then was a works-based gospel. Why? Because it depended on their works whether or not they accepted the Messiah. Now, I believe as soon as the rapture is gone, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John go right back into effect over here. Because that was the ministry to Jews. Well, here's another ministry to Jews to try to prepare them to accept this time the Messiah when he comes in Armageddon so that the kingdom will come. So it's going to be a repeat. So if you want to look at it like that, I guess you could say this. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John have a lot of doctrine that applies to the tribulation rather than the church age, if you think about it that way.
Rather than the church age.
Wow. You know, it's very difficult for me, I'd even say sad for me, to hear somebody trying to teach the Bible and say, if you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you'll be lost.
Now, let me just come to his defense. He does say, if you don't read Paul and you just read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah. Well, this is the difficulty of the conversation, because it almost makes me inside where I'm frustrated to think through it, because it's like, how do I say this? Any story, I believe that the biblical narrative, and this is what makes me different now than I was when I was a dispensationalist. I believe this is one cohesive story, one unfolding story from beginning to end. Now, in any story, there are chapters in the story. There are parts to the story. You know, the illustration I've used before. I'm not a huge movie guy, but I always go back to Rocky. It's just my go-to for my movie illustrations. It's the only one I know I grew up with. If you say, listen, you don't know Rocky. You've never even met him before. If you don't think he lives in an apartment, he's super poor, he's by himself, and he's looking for his chance to fight his first fight. And if you don't know that, you don't even know the story about Rocky. And I say, well, I'm sorry, but if you don't know that Rocky's not rich and that he is going to be fighting a celebrity match with Clubber Lang, Mr. T, if you don't know that, then you don't know Rocky. Well, who's right in that? Well, I mean, both are technically wrong, because it's the same story.
Yeah.
So we don't go to different parts of a story and say, see this part of the story? Does that look like this part of the story? That doesn't make it a different story. It makes it a different chapter of the same story.
Yeah.
So Jesus is preaching about his kingdom, meaning he's the king. It just so happens to be that he switches from the sacrificial system of the Levites to his own death, burial, and resurrection. And then now he's implementing the priesthood we see from Melchizedek, bypassing the Jewish system altogether. That doesn't mean it's a different story. It means that it's the same story and there's an unfolding chapters to it. So why would you draw a hard line and say, this is for these people, this is for these? No, my friends, it's an unfolding story. So when dispensations are harping on, see this difference is different than this. It's like, well, technically, yes, but what you're missing is there's an unfolding reason for that. And so we see this scarlet thread from Genesis through Revelation about the Messiah coming. I mean, the way that we teach the Bible at our church, I'm waiting for the literary themes to unfold. I'm looking for several things. I'm looking for a firstborn who will be obedient and worthy of the inheritance. And what do I see? I keep seeing the Lord bypass the firstborn and give it to the secondborn. Bypass the firstborn, give it to the secondborn. It's like, as a reader, I'm ready for the firstborn until the Father says to understand in John 3:16, this is my only begotten son. Oh, firstborn. He lays claim on the firstborn through the 10th plague in the story of the Exodus. I own the firstborn. So if you have a firstborn son, you got to go redeem him with 5 shekels to the priest, right? So there's a redemptive, I lay claim on the firstborn. So as a reader, I'm seeing the story unfold. Dispensationalism takes the biggest meat cleaver you've ever seen in the world and goes wham, wham, and just it separates it. Now, why would they do that? Because they fundamentally see Israel as its own identity and the church as its own identity. And they will do whatever damage to the text is necessary for us to see Israel, the church. Now, in reality, what is the actual biblical narrative? That there was always a faithful remnant subset within Israel, and that's who all the promises flowed through. That group then got transferred into Jesus. He said it this way: all that the Father has given me, I will in no wise cast out. Where do those people come from? The Father. They were already in covenant. Then Jesus dies, and the old covenant dies in him. That faithful remnant now is in him. And now the story goes for a resurrected Jesus, and the Evangelion, the gospel, is still about him being king. But now you don't have to be a Jew. You don't have to be in the Jewish religion to be circumcised and keep the Passover and keep the dietary laws and so forth. Now anybody can just call on the name of Jesus. But it's still the same group that has gone through these parts of the story. So there's a thread through the story. Whereas they take a meat cleaver to the story and say, this part of the story is for you, this part of the story is for you, rather than just having a natural progression. So that's where it gets difficult to critique these teachers, because when they take a meat cleaver, they say some things that are right. Like they take a meat cleaver and they say, see, this is why we don't offer bulls and goats today. It's like, well, yes, but not for the reason you're saying it. And that's where this gets a little difficult. So
Thank you guys for watching the video. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And if you'd like to download study guides and notes, those links are in my description below.